Hello my fellow engineers, today we're diving into the development history of the Jegan, a mobile suit I consider one of the most reliable mass-produced machines in the Universal Century timeline. This video was made by request, well, from you, our voters, so let's get into it. After the Grips conflict, the Federation wasn't just weakened, it had to purge its image and inventory of anything that was tied to the Titans, or even reminded the people of them. That meant letting go of certain ships as well as mobile suits associated with that era, rather than just keeping them as symbols of a dark chapter. For example, the RMS 106 Hyzak was outsourced to the Republic of Zeon for their national defense, while other units were pushed into the civilian sector market as the RMS 116H Hobby Hyzak. And as for the space naval side, ships like the Alexandria-class vessels were mothballed. And with threats like Neo-Zeon rising while the Federation was still in a weakened state, the Earth Federation forces were forced to rebuild under a tight budget. They needed to restore numbers quickly and fill the capacity gaps without the time or expense of designing an entirely new frontline machine from scratch. So, to rebuild efficiently, the Federation chose to upgrade the already existing RMS 179 Gem 2 and to the more advanced the RGM 86R Gem 3. Developed under the Gem 3 plan, the Gem 3 incorporated key technologies drawn from the RX 178 Gundam Mark II, and as a result, it achieved performance equal to, or in some areas, even higher than the Gundam Mark II. Now later on, with Neo-Zeon as well as other Zeon-aligned factions still viewed as major threats, the Federation recognized it needed a dedicated task force to confront them directly. But the Federation also understood the political and moral danger of repeating the Titans era. So, to avoid creating a Titans 2.0, this unit would be much smaller in scale and intentionally given less authority than the Titans once held. That elite task force was Londo Bell. The Federation understood the Gem 3 was an effective stopgap, an effective way to rebuild numbers quickly, and a reminder just how dependable the Gem lineage had been as the backbone of the Federation forces. But they also recognized a hard truth. The Gem 3 wasn't keeping pace against the newer, more advanced machines of the Neo-Zeons and other Zeon-aligned forces were beginning to field. At the end of the day, the Gem 3 was still just an upgraded Gem 2, and that limitation showed when the opposition technology continued to climb. That exposed another major problem. The Federation was struggling to develop and produce a truly new next-generation mobile suit entirely in-house, the way it had relied on the Gem series for so long. So, instead of trying to force a costly internal program during a period of recovery, the Federation turned to a contractor with an infrastructure and experience to deliver results. One they already worked with during the Grips conflict. That company was Anaheim Electronics. Anaheim worked with the Federation to identify what the next project machine needed to be, and part of the process involved building as well as fielding a proof of concept machines to gather performance as well as operational data. Those trial units weren't meant to be the final answer right away, but they were meant to test ideas, validate systems, as well as identify what could realistically be standardized for mass production. One of those proof of concept machines was the RGM 88X Jegan. The Jegan incorporated many of the same technologies used in the Gundam Mark II, to the point that it could be viewed as a direct descendant in terms of design philosophy and hardware influence. Its backpack layout was almost the same as the Gundam Mark II's, though with a lower output, reinforcing that the Federation and Anaheim were still building forward for what has already been proven. However, the program ran straight into the Federation's reality at the time. Major cuts to the Earth Federation forces' mobile suit development budgets. Because of these reductions, only 6 prototype units of the Jegan were constructed. Even though the design didn't stop there, minor variations based on the Jegan actually continued to be manufactured, including units like the RGC 90 XC Jegan Cannon. Now, and another important detail is how the Jegan presents itself visually. Unlike some of the early Anaheim developed machines requested by the Federation and Titans, the Jetta does not carry any of the Titans or Zeonic style appearance. Instead, its look and overall design language stay rooted in the RGM series line, aligning it more cleanly with the Federation standard mobile suit's identity. And during the events of Moon Gundam, several mass production examination units were assigned to the Londo Bell ship, the Razime, operated by Armor Array's mobile suit team. With the Jetta's field testing providing the operational data Anaheim needed, and with the Earth Federation forces still dealing with major budget constraints, Anaheim Electronics refined the concept into a more cost-efficient successor. So from there, Anaheim focused on what the Federation actually needed: a mobile suit that was low cost, easy to maintain, and easy to produce in large numbers, but still modern enough to stand up to the evolving threats. The end result was a state-of-the-art mass production machine produced and supplied by Anaheim, created by combining the Earth Federation Forces Gym Series expertise and Anaheim's mobile suit development technologies. The RGM-89 Jegan. Now, what made the Jegan so cost-effective? It wasn't just any single feature, it was the way the entire machine was designed from the ground up to be mass-produced. It was easy to maintain and simple to field across the Federation without becoming a financial burden. For starters, the Jegan's productivity is directly tied to its armor choice. Instead of leaning more towards expensive, harder to handle materials, the Jegan used titanium alloyed ceramic composite armor, which the specs highlight as an improvement productivity while still delivering high operability as well as excellent versatility. But that kind of material decision that matters when you're rebuilding an entire force. You need something that could be manufactured reliably and repaired constantly without grinding the supply chain to a halt. That cost control approach also shows up in the Jegan's baseline combat overall standardization. The Jegan is armed mainly with a practical, close-range oriented equipment such as a beam saber, a short-range type beam rifle, 3 hand grenades, and a Vulcan pod system, as well as a shield with twin missile launchers. Even his mobility choices reinforce the same mindset. The Jegan uses lightened armor to maintain high maneuverability, and design decisions like removing the front skirt armor are explicitly tied to preserving the leg's range of articulation. Put it quite simply, it was a surprisingly agile mobile suit. Its maneuverability could legitimately be compared to the kind of high mobility type mobile suits being fielded during the Grips conflict. Especially since the Jegan was built around a movable frame, and that frame-based construction actually helped reduce the overall weight, improve performance, and even lower construction and maintenance costs. And to help keep costs even lower, the Jegan's main optical sensor is actually a mono-eye system. The mono-eye is mounted on rails, allowing it to slide back and forth and cover a wide field of view. That visual feed is then backed up and supplemented by 10 or more secondary cameras, giving the suit a more broader visual coverage than the mono-eye alone. The mono-eye is also shielded behind a blue visor, both to protect the sensor as well as to help the Jegan maintain a distinctly Federation visual identity, so it doesn't come across like the Federation is reverting back to a Titan/Zeonic style look. The mono-eye layout is actually one of the classic mobile suit's optical camera concepts, but the Jegan's implement isn't old tech like the one-year war sense. It's more advanced, refined versions built for a modern mass production machine, and practically speaking, the mono-eye works extremely well for what the Jegan is meant to do. It supports precise targeting and performs especially well in tight one-on-one engagements where quick sensors tracking and accurate sight lines matters most. The Jegan's first major engagement, and what I call its limited early deployment, came during the events of Mobile Suit Gundam, Char's Counterattack, and UC 0093. And I say limited for a reason. At that point, the Jegan wasn't still widely distributed across the entire Federation. Instead, whatever units had been produced, which was fewer than 100 suits at the time, were funneled directly to the Federation's elite task force, Londo Bell. And even in those low numbers, Londo Bell Jegans played a pivotal role in the conflict. And after the war, the Federation had its proof. The Jegan had performed credibly, even against the Neo Zeon's Gyaradoga, which ironically is another Anaheim-built mobile suit. With the combat record established, the Jegan went on to become the mainstay mobile suit of the Earth Federation forces. The Jegan is often viewed as one of the Earth Federation's longest serving mass-produced mobile suit lines in the Universal Century. Over the years, the Jegan actually remained relevant through frequent upgrades and spin-off variants, like the RGM 89J Jegan Normal Type. Improvement packages such as the RGM 89D Jegan D Type and the specialized developments like the RGM 89S Prototype Stark Jegan. And that long service life becomes even more striking when the Earth Federation entered an era of smaller mobile suits such as the RGM 109 Heavy Gun. Even with newer machines appearing, the Federation didn't immediately replace the Jegan across the board. In fact, by the time of the Crossbow Vanguard Uprising in UC 123, the Jegan, specifically in the form of the RGM 89J Jegan Normal Type, was still widely deployed more than the modern counterparts, the Heavy Gun. And of course, by that late period, the Jegan was starting to show its age, especially against newer and more advanced enemy machines, but the fact that it remained so widely fielded speaks to what it represented for the Federation, a platform that was reliable, highly adaptable, and sustainable over a long period of time. Now, another piece of Jegan history that deserves a spotlight is Burnham, because they didn't just steal Jegans to use as frontline machines, they also appeared to have used these stolen machines as a way to test ideas and collect data that would later show up in the kind of technologies we associate with the Crossbone Vanguard. So long before the Crossbone Vanguard Uprising, a mysterious armed group known as Burnham managed to get their hands on stolen Jegans during the chaos that followed the Second Neo-Zeon War. And those stolen units were then modified into what's identified as the RGM 89 Jegan Burnham type. The changes are easy to recognize: a primarily purple color scheme, an additional left sensor eye added alongside to the main camera, and the use of a new lance-like beam rifle. At the same time, the material makes it clear that how Burnham acquired the machines and the true purpose of these modifications are still unknown, which only makes the upgrades more suspicious. And that's exactly why this matters for the Jegan's historical timeline. Even if the Burnham wasn't the Crossbone Vanguard yet, this moment shows that the Jegan's platform become invaluable enough to steal, adapt enough to modify, and reliable enough to serve as a testbed for experimental sensors and equipment concepts. In that sense, the Burnham type is more than a weird footnote. It feels like an early sign of the kind of technological directions the battlefield evolution would later define the Crossbone Vanguard period. And that's it for today's video, and I gotta say, the Jegan is widely a reliable machine, and to be fair, the information does point out that the part of the reason it remained in service all the way in the UC 120s was because the Federation continued its budget cuts. But regardless, what really stands out is the fact that the Jegan was easy to upgrade, which is exactly why it could stay relevant and stay in service for as long as it did. But now I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on the Jegan? Drop them in the comments below. And as always, if you'd like to see more Gundam content, hit that like and subscribe button. Farewell, my fellow engineers.